Hello and welcome to the user testing and demo of our app named Gamplify. Gamplify provides the most reliable, accurate, and timely recommendations to global game players to help them achieve ultimate gaming experience. To start off, we have the README file included in the distribution package to get more information about the functionality of Gamplify. So here is the README file that I have previously opened. So it includes a user guide on the installation requirements and the different menu options that the user can select when using the program. Gamplify is a wholly developed program using Python. To run the main Python file of Gamplify, first we need to have the Anaconda installed. Anaconda is the most popular free and open source distribution for Python. Once we have Anaconda, we can proceed with the next requirement, which is downloading Selenium. Selenium refers to a number of different open source projects, and among them includes browser automation platform and, of course, web scraping. So we've used this as a web scraping option aside from Beautiful Soup for our project. So in order to install this, let us open an Anaconda prompt like what we have in here. And in the Anaconda prompt, just type in this one line script, which is conda install. Okay, and then once we run this script, this may take a few minutes, and then it will prompt you to proceed. Just hit yes, and then it will complete downloading and extracting of the package. Once we have Selenium installed, we can open up our Anaconda Navigator in case you haven't done so. And from the Anaconda Navigator, we launch the spider, and this IDE is what we're going to use for this session in order to run our program. So our program function, our main file, is the group8 main.py. So this is under the group8 subfolder, wherein this is where we put our project distribution package. So just click the group8 main here to open it up. And then you can also open up the README file for further reference. Okay, so let's go and start using Gamplify. So just hit run on the group8 main.py. In the console window, you will see that you will have several menus available. The first menu would be display CPU share by vendor. So this menu will present to us a graph on the CPU share of the top two vendors. So by the way, before we proceed with the graphs, make sure that we're doing inline. We're viewing it inline. So go to panes, plots, and then inside this plot, make sure that the mute inline plotting is deselected so that the plots will be displayed in the console window. Okay, just some advice. Okay, so we can try this out and hit our first choice, which is menu 1. And by entering menu 1, this will give us a graph of the CPU share per vendor or by vendor. So we're in the top two vendors, as we all know, is Intel and AMD as CPU vendors. So Intel has the majority of the shares, while AMD has a small portion of the share. However, what's interesting is that from May 2020 up to September, you will see how AMD slowly grows its market share. Okay, so little by little it is growing. So this is quite an interesting trend to look at over time. Okay, the next graph that is available that would be interesting to see is to look at the CPU share by core count. So by typing option 2 or using the menu 2 option, it should give us a graph similar to the above, but this time with different categories of the core. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then the other cores are lumped up together. So you'll see here that the most popular or the highest market share for the cores are the 4 core, and then followed by 6 core, and then the 2 core. You would notice here that the 2 core is actually declining its market share over time, and looks like gamers are now shifting to 6 core. So you can see that 6 core is slowly gaining its market share over the last 5 months. All right. And then moving on to our third option. Our third option is on the preferences uh, for the users on the different specifications or parameters that the user would like to be preferred or prioritized. Okay, so if you hit 3, it will give you a submenu of several options as well. If you do not intend to choose or set any options under menu 3, the default feature will be used, which is the sub-option number 1. Sub-option number 1 is the selection for average CPU score being preferred or prioritized. CPU scores are benchmark scores from 3D Mark that considers the technical specification of the CPU. Other than the default, you could also choose some other options like sub-option number 2, which is the average CPU clock speed. You can also choose sub-option 3 for the CPU core count, option 4 for the CPU price. For the CPU price, the lower price, the better. And then option 5, if we're interested to look into or to prioritize the Amazon review scores, what other gamers have in mind or are rating higher. So this option is good for you. And then option 6 would be score per dollar. So this utilizes 2 parameters above the CPU score over the price to give us the score per dollar rating, right? So let's say we are to choose 5. I think at this time, let's try to prioritize the reviews of other gamers. Okay. Once we get some to choose preferences under menu 3, we are ready now to choose either the price range or core counts. Okay. If I choose 4, it will be able to give us some range of prices for us to give us a recommendation based on our budget. So in this case, we can try, I think my budget for this time would be a mid-range. I'm looking for a mid-range CPU. So I'll take option 3. And it will give me an output with this particular recommendation. So given that my preference is the one with highest user rating from Amazon, and a mid-range or a mid-range budget of $200 to $300. So the CPU recommendation for me would be the AMD Ryzen 7 3700X. Based on the benchmark scores, the most popular motherboard for this CPU is the ROG Strix B450-i Gaming. And then this CPU, the Amazon Ryzen 7 3700X, has the highest benchmarking score for this particular motherboard, the Gigabyte Technology Company Limited B550 Aorus Pro. So given this, it gives us a straightforward and as well as a very usable information about what best CPU for my particular preference. We can also try and look at other preferences. So let's go to option 3 and let's see prioritize score per dollar. So I'll take option 6 for this. And then this time I am to choose based on core counts. So I'll go to menu 5 and then I want, since 6 core is actually gaining popularity at the moment, so let's try 6 core. Okay, and this time it gives me a recommended CPU, which is the Intel Core i5-9400F processor. So the most popular Motherboard for this type of CPU is the B360M Mortar, the MS7B23. However, the best motherboard with the highest benchmarking score for this particular CPU is the ASRock H370 Pro 4. So this would give me an idea on what particular motherboards that I can pair this up with to get the most performance out of it. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this little demonstration of what Gamplify can do. The recommendations of Gamplify is no nonsense and has aggregated different sources and parameters that the gamer usually researches on his own. Normally, one looks at technical specifications, benchmark scores, user rating, and prices, and gives recommendations. And Gamplify will give recommendations without any bias from a particular author, blog site, or company. So feel free to try around different configurations and see for yourself how practical and easy it is to do your CPU selection to amplify your game. Thank you very much, and we hope you enjoy Gamplify.